Welcome to my first edition of an actual real backdrop and lighting, and I actually am doing this the right way. I have filmed this a couple of times and it just wasn't working out. So I'm really hoping and praying that I can edit this correctly for my first time. Please forgive me. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to editing. Technology and all that stuff doesn't always work my way, but I'm so excited to share with you guys this first look for a mom makeup tutorial, or what I'm like to call a mom tutorial. This is a very neutral, laid back look. It is a little glam with a lot of highlight, but all of this is preferential. Whatever you don't feel comfortable with doing, you definitely don't have to do. But if you like any of these looks, eyes, lips, cheeks, whatever, please continue watching. Really would appreciate a subscription. Please press the subscribe button. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. Have a great day.
Hi guys, we're going to go ahead and start by moisturizing our face. Today we're using the Clinique Dramatically Different Moisturizing Lotion. It's just really important to make sure your skin is well hydrated and moisturized before applying any liquid to your face. Go ahead and start with the Too Faced Primed and Poreless Skin Smoothing Face Primer. This helps to make sure your foundation stays on all day, and then also helps to reduce the look of large pores. I wasn't hugely impressed by this. This was a brand new product for me, so I wouldn't necessarily suggest you go out and buy it. There's other primers that are a lot more inexpensive that work just as good. Now I'm adding the Clinique Beyond Perfecting Foundation and Concealer 2-in-1. This is the first time I actually used this foundation as well, and wasn't extremely loving the color on me. I had kind of skin matched myself, but I just thought I would try it out for today. Now what you see me doing is blending with the Real Techniques complexion sponge and just making sure to tap it and pat it all over my face, just blending it into my skin to make sure that it blends more nice and smoothly. When you use a beauty sponge, just make sure that it's damp and not wet. Just run it underneath the water for a little bit, squeezing it out, and then once you're done, you go ahead and I usually take a Kleenex and just wrap it around the sponge, squeezing out any excess water. Now we're going to go ahead and conceal. I'm using the Maybelline Fitme concealer in the color Fair. You might be wondering why I'm using a lighter color than my actual skin tone, and the reason behind it is that when you use a lighter concealer on the main portion, inner portion of your face, it actually brings more light, which is considered a highlighting method. It actually gives more dimension to your face and actually, crazily enough, helps to even your skin tone as well. I'm just using the doe foot applicator just to apply it to bridge my nose, underneath my eyes, around your nostrils, anywhere you might see some skin correcting needs and or imperfection that you want to cover up, whether it be breakout or whatever you're dealing with. And I'm continuing to use that same sponge from Real Techniques. That Real Techniques sponge you've seen is something that a lot of people have been talking about on the internet in comparison to the Beauty Blender. Now I've used the Beauty Blender, just recently purchased one as a big splurge because it's $20 for one little sponge, and you're not obviously supposed to keep it forever, so it's not an investment, it's a part-time purchase, kind of as if you were to buy a roll of paper towels. And so I would really suggest the Real Technique sponge. It works just as good and is super inexpensive. It's about 1/4 of the cost, about $5–6 at the most. So go ahead and take a little powder brush and underneath your eye and wherever you applied the concealer, go ahead and set that concealer with a loose powder. This helps prevent creasing. Now I'm going to bring you in a little closer while I'm doing my eyes, and I'm applying the MAC paint pot in a color called Soft Ochre. It's a matte color that helps to just conceal any imperfections on your eyelid and also prepare for your eyeshadow, just to prime your eyelids for your eyeshadow. I'm just applying a very I'm using a brush, a synthetic brush. It's really flat and wide, just to make it an easy application. You can use your fingertips though, it's just as good. I just like to use the brush because it just seems to blend a little bit easier. And the brush that I'm using is very inexpensive. Now I'm going into my Morphe palette, I don't remember the name of it. I want to say it's 35 Neutral, 35N, but I'll go ahead and list that link below. I purchased it off Amazon. Using a fluffy blending brush, I'm just going to start applying that very light neutral color in the bend of my eye, which some people would call a crease, but because I'm Asian, I really don't have a real true crease, so I'm just going to apply it where my orbital bone and my lid connect, a little bit of a, I would say, bend. So now I'm just going to go back and forth with the fluffy brush, back and forth in a blending motion, and then it just kind of prepares your eye for the real transition color, and also making sure that my eyeshadows blend easily over the MAC paint pot, because the MAC paint pot is a very, it dries very quickly. However, if it's not fully dry, when you apply your dry eyeshadows, it can, if you don't do this step, it won't make your eyeshadow blend very easily. So now I'm going in with a darker color, darker neutral color, and just going to start with my transition color, staying in that same area of my eye, blending back and forth. Now I've sped up this process because it is a little bit mundane in its purpose, but if you remain in that same eye area of your crease, now if you have a hooded eye or whatever your eyelid looks like, the main thing of reasoning to do this is to apply a background, a backdrop for whatever eyeshadow colors you actually want people to see the main essence of. So wherever you could actually see a background base color, it doesn't matter of your eye, just making sure that's in that area where your orbital bone and your eyelid kind of connect together. So now I've gone in with kind of a deeper brown color, and you can start to see the shadow start to really give that ombre effect. Even though my skin is darker, the same kind of similar color, you can kind of see the shadow beginning. I'm just showing you guys, I'm using a very flat, and I would say this is kind of a padded brush, to go ahead and be able to really layer on that shimmer color that I'm trying to put in the middle of my eyelid. And I'm just going to apply it in a patty motion, going back and forth, and because the color is very sheer and very light, you just can't go wrong putting too much on there. So I went back and forth quite a few times, applying a thick layer of that shimmer color, not so much for effect, but just to make sure that it could be seen amongst the darker browns that it was being surrounded with. This kind of is going to give your eye a little bit of light, even though you've got some matte shadows in your background. And the difference obviously between matte and shimmer is that the matte doesn't have any sheen to it, and shimmer has a little bit of a glitter flex to it without being too harsh. It's just a really nice complement to one another. You can use all matte colors together if you have an affinity or not necessarily liking shimmer colors with your skin type or with whatever look you're going for. But mixing them both together is definitely a great effect and a great result as well. Just doing a neutral eye today, we're not doing anything too over the top. Now I'm going to apply the next brush. It's using the Sigma brush called the Diffused Crease Brush. I think it's called the E36 or E38. I'll go ahead and list it below in my description box. I just decided I want a little bit more dimension in my color, so I went in with a deeper brown than I had originally gone in, and just in that same crease area, just to give it a little bit more oomph. And I'm just going to go back and forth in that kind of windshield wiper motion. When you apply a darker color, always start on the outside and blend towards the inner corner, at least with this method. Now there's different methods, and there really is no perfect rules in makeup, but just giving you a guideline if you start. Alright, I'm going to go in with my dark accent color, and it's just choosing a darker brown in the palette that I just pointed at. I'm using a blending brush. It's very soft, and the bristles are very separated, so it doesn't pick up a lot of pigment. Made a little bit of an accident there, but anyway, I was trying to focus on what I was doing in the camera as well as trying to do this look as well, so nobody's perfect, right? So I ahead and put some on by tapping on that outside corner of my eye, and then because I made a mistake, I was trying to make it even it out by using a different brush just to get that even color separated. And now we're going to go ahead, and once I've applied that accent color to the outside of my eye, I'm going to use a winged liner brush by Sigma to start my wing liner. Now I went ahead and did my wing liner off camera because when I taped it, I accidentally didn't have myself in camera. Now using a different brush, this is the 213 brush by MAC, I'm going to go ahead and add my smoky-ish eye effect. This is a neutral eye, so it's not real dramatic. So I head ahead and put a kind of one of the more middle neutral, not too light, not too dark colors underneath my eye, and I blend it in as close as I possibly can to my lash line. Now it doesn't have to be perfect here, and I accidentally got a little bit of eyeliner in the corner of my eye, so a little frustrated with that issue because now I have to get my beauty blender out, or excuse me, my Real Techniques brush, sponge, and try to get it out of the way. Ugh, frustrated. So anyway, now keep blending underneath the lash line back and forth, and this just kind of gives a little finishing touch to your eye. If you've ever seen anyone's eyeshadow without a smoky eye effect underneath their lash line, it just kind of seems incomplete. So we're just going to go ahead with a little bit of a darker brown in just the outside area, not to all the way to the inner corner, just the outside, just to add a little bit more dimension. And I'm just blending that in, back and forth, back and forth. Once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and use a black eyeliner and then place that as close to the lash line as possible. Now some people would want to do it in their waterline. That's fine. Just for me, my eye, just personally, I like to do my waterline, but not with this kind of a look. So I'm trying to blend the eyeliner as close or inside of my lash line as possible, and I'm just making a nice fine line. Once we're done making that fine line, just to kind of add a little bit of a border, a little bit of dimension to the eye, just to frame the eye in, we're going to go ahead and take that same brush that I used to add that darker brown and neutral brown underneath the eye, just to blend out that eyeliner, just to make it a little bit less harsh and kind of diffuse the color a little bit as well. Because all we want is the effect of the outline. We don't necessarily want a harsh bold line. So I'm just going ahead and blend it back. Okay, and so once we're done blending that eyeliner in underneath the lash line, we're going to go ahead and use a brush. I would say that it could be a blush brush, a medium powder brush, anything that you have on hand or that you can afford very inexpensively. I would suggest going to Target or a Walmart and grab an e.l.f. brush. I'm using a MAC brush, but that's just because I already had it because of my previous makeup artist experience, which is very minimal, but enough for me to grab some brushes while I worked for MAC. I'm just going to go ahead and use that brush to contour. I just went ahead and pointed to a Morphe palette that I just recently purchased online that I have still been working to use it, so I might be going into the palette a few more times for different colors, but I want to start light and then kind of dimension myself into a darker, depending on what kind of effect I'm getting, because I'm still learning the pigment of the palette, I'm still learning how it affects or how it applies to my face. So I'm just kind of going from the top of my ear to the inner part of my cheek in kind of a diagonal effect, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I'm also, once I go make that line up and down, back and forth in a diagonal, I'm just kind of going in a sweeping motion so I can blend it so it's not a super harsh line, because all I'm really wanting is the effect of a deeper, warmer color just to help warm up my face and make it more, try to give an elongation type of effect is what we're going for. So when you get done doing that, you're going to blend back and forth quite a few times, and I'm just trying to get a feel for the palette. I'm going to go in with a different brush. This one was a really inexpensive brush, and I'll go ahead and link a lot of brush links for you guys in the description box. But I'm using the lighter colors in the palette underneath my cheekbone and underneath that kind of that above the ear to the inner portion of my cheek, just to kind of lighten that any diffused contour that got below where it's supposed to be, because it's supposed to be kind of in the middle, not in the lower part of the jawline and not too high. And now we're going in with my blush. As you can see, I just showed you that I'm using an e.l.f. blush brush. That's a tongue twister. Using a Wet n Wild blush that I really love, their Color Icon collection. You can't go wrong with any of these colors. Now, particularly for this day, I'm using a color that's kind of between a peach and kind of between a rose color, just because I wanted a nice, neutral, healthy glow. Once I applied it back and forth, I kind of got the idea that maybe I went a little too overboard, so I went ahead with my RCMA No Color Loose Powder, and I'm using a very puffy powder brush just to kind of blend it. I'm showing the difference between having a little bit of color and maybe having a little bit too much color on the other cheek, and I'm just using that No Color powder just to kind of help me blend in that color without it being too harsh, but so you can still see it. But that e.l.f. blush brush is from Target. The next thing I'm going to show you is the Morphe M510. This is a highlighting brush. It's kind of an interesting brush, and it's specifically used for highlighting the top of the cheekbones and any other place that you'd want a little bit of highlight. This Wet n Wild highlighter is amazing. For only $2.99 is what I purchased it for, but if you can find this at your local Walgreens, it's the only place I've ever seen them have them other than the BX on base because I'm a military spouse. I'm applying it to the highlight of my cheek, kind of right below my eye in a diagonal motion. So just apply it back and forth, and you can see the difference. It's just bringing a lot of light to my face, right where the light hits your face naturally. And I really like a highlight, as you can see. Just going back and forth, and then once I'm done with that, I might apply some to my nose, tip of my nose, top of my Cupid's bow, which is where your lips interconnect below your nose, and then on the top of my chin, just for some highlight. Those places are where light naturally hits your face, so when you add a highlight to those areas, it really brings a lot of color and luminosity to a lot of healthy glow. I'm gonna go ahead and contour my nose. Being Asian, I have a very wide bridge, and so by doing this contouring motion, it really helps to narrow that bridge of my nose out, and I just recently started doing that in the last 6 months, and it's made a huge difference. It's very light, just like as you saw, I use the lightest color in my palette for the browns, and I just apply it to the bridge of my nose, outside bridge of my nose, down to my nostril, and you can see it kind of gives me an effect of a more narrow bridge, and I have loved that because it's just a small little technique that can make such a big difference. And then I'm gonna go ahead and highlight a little bit more because if you didn't realize already, I like myself some highlight. Alright guys, we're gonna finish this look up today by doing my eyelashes. I had applied a thin coat of mascara to my eyelashes and let it dry, and then now I'm using an eyelash curler to go ahead and bend my lashes up and preparing for my falsies. I'm going to show you my favorite eyelash glue here in a minute, and then we're going to apply my eyelashes, finish up with my lower lash line, and apply my false lashes, and then we're all done after we apply my lipstick off camera as well. Thanks for watching, guys.